Well, the sprinklers are on this morning here at historic Fort Wilkins. Obviously, the original guys didn't have the use of sprinklers, but today we'll sketch around that. The garrison here was put here to kind of stabilize the area because there was going to be a copper rush. Not a gold rush, but a copper rush. So people were worried that would create a lot of chaos. So Fort was garrisoned here in the early, 1830s or 40s, something like that. I'll fill in the gaps, historical gaps. Later on. Come out here early to try to catch some of the light. See if I can do a decent sketch.
By 1910, after 4 decades of neglect, the old fort had fallen into terrible disrepair. Ravaged by time and weather, and vandalized to some extent, the fort was in desperate need of help. In 1924, the site became a state park, and the long road to restoration began. After another 3 decades of investment and work, and with the help of archaeologists, historians, craftspeople, and the community of Copper Harbor, the fort was rebuilt and restored to its former glory.
Morning.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Just sketching these
Just
guys.
sketching.
Yeah, sketching these guys painting. I got a little bit of the fort earlier. So, yeah. Trying to capture a little bit of this place. Glad you guys are taking care of it.
Big job.
I'm sure it is a big
Keeps
job.
entertaining.
Yeah, I'm glad these guys are painting. I won't be long. I'll just sketch these guys.
All right. Yeah, just curious what you're up to.
Oh, just sketching. Wow. Is that okay? All right.
Well, I've had fun working with you this summer, so. No, he said in case. his last one.
He's not surveying, he's doing a sketch over there. He's doing it for like a book or a magazine or something.
Oh yeah.
It's sketching. Look.
What's happening?
Yeah, you just pointed it my way and it looked accurate, you know?
Artist.
Yeah, pencil sketch, you know?
Leonard Skinner.
Oh, I've been down south and stuff. Hoop and holler out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long will a job like this take you guys?
We did the other. Took us what, 2 days just to scrape it all off, didn't it? We're only doing this wall and the north wall. And yesterday we got the north wall painted and just a couple sections on here, but we're doing this east wall this morning. Then we'll jump back over on the north wall, and it's took us all day yesterday to get just that one wall painted and part of this. Was you in the service?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What branch were you in?
I was in the Army.
Army, nice.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, right when I got out, I went and took the test, all that stuff. I was gonna go in the Army.
Okay.
Last thing I had to do was head to Detroit to get my physical, and I was in. And then I got called for a job, and I took that job, and I ended up not going in the military. And I kind of wish I would have, but oh well. But I
Well,
do.
Well, whatever old ghosts roam this fort, they're happy to see you painting it, I'm
Oh,
sure.
they are. They already. Both of our park ranger supervisors, they already go, man, you guys are doing a great job out there. It looks good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything.
We're both named Tom, too.
Yeah.
Tom and I'm Thomas.
You're Tom and you're Thomas.
Yeah.
All right, all right.
I
Well, Thomas, you're not headed for your 45th reunion yet.
no, he's barely 20 years old.
Yep.
You got a ways to go
We're
there.
heading to Texas this winter.
Oh, okay.
Or New Mexico. One of the two.
Well, you're from around here? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's lived here all of his life. I haven't.
Okay. Well, I'm sure.
Yeah. Now it's all, the CAC stuff, like you said, and
Yeah, yeah.
all these kids want to just run that. They just want to put something in there, stand back, and watch it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, pretty soon robots will be doing that.
Pretty soon. Yeah,
You
it's going
won't
to take over someday.
Sure enough.
That's right. AI is coming, and it's here. I mean, really.
Oh yeah, it's already here.
Well, I want to be my own boss.
Yeah. Well, that's always a good option, and you can. It's a lot of work, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Where'd you come up from?
I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, I've been there a few times. I just drove through there,
Oh, good.
back in March.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to live. It's probably a little like this in the winter. Probably not as much snow.
Yeah, they get quite a bit here.
Blacksmith shop. Block and tackle. Old grinding wheel. Bellows, big bellows for the forge. I had a great time talking to Tom and Thomas about their work on the fort, and whether it's the painting or general maintenance or repair, they're helping to preserve this fort for future generations so that they can come and reflect on the history here, for good or bad.
America established a lot of these forts in the West or as they expanded. And this is one of the more well-preserved forts that people can visit and get a sense of what it was like here at the time. This is the old blacksmith shop. This building was one of the buildings they had to rebuild from archaeological site surveys because this building had been destroyed or just completely ransacked and deteriorated from the weather and exposure and everything like that. Obviously, all the tools and everything that you see in there are period correct, but they are probably not the original. They don't have all the original stuff. Here's an old photograph of what it looked like in around 1910. That's a building that's just to the east of the old blacksmith shop. You can see completely different, but it sits next to it, just on the other side behind it here in this picture. But yeah, they were able to rebuild and reconstruct this building along with several others on the fort. But remarkably, a lot of the buildings that were on this fort survived, and I think that's probably owed to the fact that this is a pretty remote place. This is on the very tip of the Upper Peninsula. So you actually run out of paved road just a little bit east of here. We had an opportunity to go off-roading a little bit out that way. We're trying to make our way to the very, very edge in the tip of Copper Harbor where you can meet up with Lake Superior. So we did a little off-roading to go see that. But, and to say those roads were I guess you'd call them low maintenance service roads, would be a pretty big understatement because they were just basically two-track with boulders and everything else. So that was fun, but it was rugged. I definitely do not recommend taking anything but a pretty heavy-duty four-wheel drive or maybe a quad type side-by-side out in there. We saw a few of those traveling through there, but yeah, or a motorcycle adventure bike. But yeah, that's not for the faint of heart. But we had a blast. So I was reading up on the history of these various buildings. I found it curious that outside the actual walls of the fort are where enlisted married men or married enlisted men stayed with their wives and families. So those chimney houses you see outside the fence line, those were for regular enlisted men and their wives, which I found odd. Like, why wouldn't you put that in the fence line of the fort? But then again, I imagine they felt pretty safe there. For one thing, this is a very remote place. So when you're talking about security, I mean, basically, the Fannie Hooe Lake is on the south side, and on the north side is Lake Superior. And the only way to get up here at that time was probably Lake Superior or a very tough trail. So I think most of their goods for the fort came in through Copper Harbor, which is sort of a natural harbor, and they probably brought stuff in through there. Not sure which, if the town or the fort sprung up first, but you know, by the 1920s, people were making road trips up here, so obviously there was some manner of road. But yeah, pretty secure place. And to the direct east is, like I said, that's a road that goes to the tip, and then there's nothing but water. So pretty interesting place. And the fort configuration was interesting as well. Pretty typical of that era fort for the United States Army to build. So not unlike what you would find in sort of the western areas. You've heard of Fort Dodge or Fort Laramie or Fort, this or that out west. Those probably pretty much like those forts, and garrisoned pretty similar with the same complement of soldiers. As I walked the grounds of Fort Wilkins and was able to move in and out of the officers and enlisted barracks and look at the various buildings, the mess hall and the blacksmith shop and some of these neat buildings in the fort, I couldn't help to think back about my time in the Army and how a soldier's life really doesn't much change over time. It's sort of the same stuff: drill, 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 train, clean up, be on duty all the time, work, 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 and hurry up and wait. And sort of a soldier's life, even though tactics and weaponry and all those things might change, a soldier's life really doesn't change all that much. I'm sure if you asked somebody in the current military, they probably tell you some of those very similar things. I was thinking about the soldiers of this era and how they must have lived and how much they worked to build this fort and what they must have gone through in the winters and the harsh environment up here in the middle of nowhere, where it was so isolated, so far away from anything remotely resembling civilization. Whatever hardships they had to endure, I'm sure they were differentiated by the time and the era that they lived in. Back when I was in the U.S. Army Cavalry, that was a long time ago. That's a story for a different time, but I'm sure life was quite different, but in a lot of ways very similar to the soldier of this era. They say that in the Army, the coffee's mighty fine. It looks like muddy water and tastes like turpentine. Hey, Mom, I wanna go, but they won't let me go. Hey, Mom, I wanna come home. Well, they say that in the Army, the beds are mighty fine. But how the hell would I know? I've never slept in mine. They say that in the Army, the tents are waterproof. You wake up in the morning and you're floating on the roof. They say that in the Army, the hours are just right. Start you in the morning and work you through the night. Oh, Mom, I wanna go, but they won't let me go. Oh, Mom, I wanna go home. Well, they say that in the Army, the pay is mighty fine. They give you $100 and take back 99. Oh, Lord, I wanna go, but they won't let me go. Oh, Lord, I wanna go home. You're left, you're left, you're left, right, left.